92 years old, married for 68 of them, and last Tuesday, sitting in our living room watching you read the newspaper, I had a thought that made my blood run cold. I wasted my life with you. My name is Helen Morrison, and this is the truth I've been too afraid to say out loud for 7 decades. It hit me out of nowhere. We were just sitting there like we've sat thousands of times before, you in your chair, me on the couch, the clock ticking, the silence so familiar is like furniture. And I looked at you, really looked at you, and I thought, I don't even like you. Not love. I stopped loving you decades ago, though I never admitted it. But like, respect, enjoy your company. No, I realized I haven't liked you in over 40 years. And yet here we are, 92 and 94 years old, still married, still living in the same house, still going through the motions. And I'm furious, not at you. Well, partly at you, but mostly at myself. Because I chose this. Every single day for 68 years, I chose to stay. I met you in 1953. I was 24. You were 26. Post-war America. Everyone was getting married, building families, creating the American dream. You were handsome, stable. You had a good job at the factory. My parents approved. Harold is a good man, my mother said. He'll provide for you. He'll be a good husband. And I believed her, because what did I know? I was 24 years old. I'd never been in love, never had my heart broken, never even kissed anyone else. You were my first everything, and you were fine, not exciting, not passionate, not particularly interesting, but fine. We dated for a year. You proposed at a restaurant, got down on one knee. The whole place applauded. I said yes, because that's what you were supposed to do, and because I couldn't think of a good reason to say no. We got married in 1954, small wedding. I wore my mother's dress. We honeymooned at Niagara Falls. And on our wedding night, I remember lying in that hotel bed thinking, is this it? Is this all there is? But I pushed the thought away because everyone said the first year was an adjustment, that marriage was work, that love grew over time, so I waited for it to grow. I'm still waiting. The first decade wasn't bad, it wasn't good either, it just was. You worked, I kept house. We had dinner together every night at 6 p.m. You'd read the paper, I'd do dishes, we'd watch TV, go to bed. We had 3 children, Patricia, Robert, James, and I loved them. God, I loved them so much. But you were just there, a presence, a fixture, like the refrigerator or the dining table. We never talked, not really. Oh, we discussed logistics, bills, schedules, what needed fixing around the house. But we never talked about feelings, dreams, fears, who we were as people. I tried. In the beginning, I'd ask you questions. What do you think about? What do you dream about? What makes you happy? And you'd look at me like I was speaking another language. I don't know, Helen. I think about work, about making sure the bills are paid, about normal things. But what about you? Who are you? I'm your husband. I'm the kid's father. That's who I am. And that was it. That was as deep as you went. After a few years, I stopped asking. I was 35 years old when I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. We were at a dinner party. Our friends Jim and Carol were hosting. There were maybe 10 couples there, and I watched Jim and Carol interact, the way he looked at her, the way she touched his arm when she laughed, the way they seemed to have this whole conversation with just their eyes. They'd been married 15 years, same as us. But they were still connected, still interested in each other, still alive to each other. And I looked at you sitting across the room, not even aware I was watching you, and I felt nothing, no warmth, no affection, no connection, just nothing. I went to the bathroom and cried because I knew. I finally admitted what I'd been avoiding for years. I didn't love you. Maybe I never had, and I was only 35. I could have decades left, decades of this emptiness. But I was trapped. 3 kids, no job, no money of my own, and it was 1965. Women didn't just leave their husbands, not without being destroyed socially and financially. So I went back to the party, smiled, played my role, and I've been playing it ever since. The next 40 years were a blur of sameness. You went to work, I raised the kids, we had dinner, watched TV, went to bed, repeat. We never fought. People always said that like it was a good thing. Harold and Helen never fight. They're so stable. But we didn't fight because we didn't care enough to fight. You'd need to have passion for that. Investment, a stake in each other's inner lives. We had none of that. We were roommates, co-parents, people who shared a house and a last name. But we weren't partners. We weren't lovers. We weren't friends. We were just there. I tried to find meaning in other things, the kids, my garden, my volunteer work at the library, and those things helped. They kept me from completely disappearing into the void of our marriage. But they didn't fill the fundamental emptiness of spending your life with someone who doesn't see you, doesn't know you, doesn't even want to. Here's what you never knew about me, Harold. I wanted to be a writer. I filled notebooks with stories and poems. I dreamed of publishing a novel, but you laughed when I mentioned it once. That's not realistic, Helen. You need to focus on practical things. So I stopped writing, hid my notebooks in the back of the closet. I loved jazz music. Could have listened to it for hours, but you hated it, said it was chaotic noise, so I never played it when you were home, which was always. I wanted to travel, see the world, experience different cultures, but you said it was a waste of money, that everything worth seeing was right here in America. So we never went anywhere, except that one trip to Niagara Falls 68 years ago. I wanted to go back to school, learn new things, challenge myself intellectually. But you said we couldn't afford it, that I didn't need it, so I never went. I wanted deep conversations, late-night talks about philosophy and meaning and what it all meant. But you fell asleep every night by 9 p.m. right after the news. So I stopped trying to talk. I wanted to be seen, really seen, known, understood. But you never even tried. Do you know what it costs to spend your life with someone who doesn't really know you, who never asked, who never cared to look beneath the surface? It costs everything. It costs your sense of self. Because if the person closest to you doesn't see you, you start to wonder if there's anything to see. It costs your dreams. Because after decades of having them dismissed, you stop having them altogether. It costs your joy. Because joy requires connection, and we never had that. It costs your time, and time is the one thing you can never get back. I'm 92 years old. I've spent 68 years, living with someone who never really knew me, and I can never get those years back. I should have left you. I know that now. Should have known it then, but I was too scared. I should have left in 1965 when I was 35 and realized the truth. Yes, it would have been hard. Yes, people would have judged me. Yes, I would have struggled financially. But I would have had a chance to find myself, to find real love, to build a life that was actually mine. Instead, I stayed, and I told myself all the lies. Marriage is supposed to be hard. No one is happy all the time. I made a commitment. Think of the children. It's too late to start over. But those were just excuses, justifications for my fear. The truth is, I was a coward. I chose security over authenticity, comfort over truth, the familiar prison over the unknown freedom. And now I'm 92, and it's actually too late. Sometimes I imagine what my life could have been. I imagine leaving you in my 30s, finding a small apartment, getting a job, writing in the evenings. I imagine meeting someone else, someone who asked me questions, who wanted to know what I thought about, who saw me as a full human being, not just a wife and mother. I imagine conversations that went deeper than the weather and the bills. Connections that felt real. Love that was based on knowing each other, not just cohabiting. I imagine traveling, writing, learning, growing, becoming. I imagine being alive, really truly alive, instead of this half-life I've been living for 7 decades. You never gave me curiosity. You never wanted to know who I really was. You never gave me adventure. Everything was safe, predictable, controlled. You never gave me intellectual stimulation. Our conversations were surface level at best. You never gave me emotional intimacy. You shut down every time I tried to go deeper. You never gave me passion. Our physical relationship was perfunctory, obligatory. You never gave me growth. You wanted me to stay exactly as I was the day we married. You never gave me partnership. You made decisions without consulting me, dismissed my opinions. You never gave me respect. You patronized me, treated me like a child who didn't understand practical matters. You never gave me visibility. You looked at me every day but never really saw me, and I stayed anyway. That's my fault, not yours. Here's the bitter truth I have to swallow. I stayed because I was afraid, and that fear cost me my one precious life. I stayed because I thought that's what good women did, and that cost me my authenticity. I stayed because I didn't think I deserved better, and that cost me my self-worth. I stayed because I didn't want to disappoint people, and that cost me my happiness. I stayed because I thought it was too late to change, and that cost me everything. Every single day I stayed was a choice I made out of fear. And now I'm 92 years old, sitting in a house with someone who is essentially a stranger, wondering what my life could have been if I'd had the courage to leave. If you're young and in a relationship that doesn't feed your soul, leave. If you're with someone who doesn't see you, doesn't know you, doesn't even try, leave. If you're staying out of fear or obligation or because you think it's too late, it's not. Leave. Don't do what I did. Don't sacrifice your one life on the altar of should and supposed to and what will people think. Don't wake up at 92 and realize you wasted 70 years being invisible to the person who was supposed to know you best. Life is too short for mediocre love, for surface-level connections, for marriages that are just coexistence. You deserve to be seen, known, cherished, challenged, excited, alive. And if your relationship doesn't give you that, if you're just going through the motions, playing house, pretending, get out while you still have time, because I promise you, the regret of staying is so much worse than the fear of leaving. I'll never tell you this, Harold. We're too old. You're too old. What would be the point? You'd be confused, hurt. You'd think you'd been a good husband. By the standards of the time, maybe you were. You provided. You didn't cheat. You didn't hit me. You were reliable. But you never knew me, and you never wanted to, and I never made you, never demanded more, never insisted on being seen. So here we are, 92 and 94, married for 68 years, strangers who share a life, and in a few years, maybe months, one of us will die, and people will say they were married almost 70 years. What a love story. But it wasn't a love story. It was a story of fear, of settling, of wasted time. It was a story of two people who never really met. And now it's too late. I'm writing this down because I need to say it, even if only to myself. I wasted my life with you, Harold. Not because you were cruel, not because you were evil, but because you were absent, emotionally absent, intellectually absent, spiritually absent, and I stayed anyway. That's on me, but it doesn't make the waste any less real, the years any less lost, the life any less unlived. I'm 92 years old, and I'm angry at you, at myself, at the world that told me this was enough. I'm angry that I believed the lie that marriage meant security, not connection, that a good husband just needed to provide, not engage, that a good wife just needed to endure, not thrive. I'm angry that I spent 7 decades being invisible, and I'm heartbroken that I'll die having never really lived. Don't make my mistake. Don't stay with someone who doesn't see you. Don't waste your precious, irreplaceable life on a love that isn't real, because one day you'll be 92, sitting in a living room with a stranger, realizing that everything you feared about leaving was nothing compared to the reality of staying. And by then, it will be too late.